In this video, we're going to take a quick look at creating a new React application using a command line tool. So here I've shown my Windows 10 configuration and listed the different versions of some of the tools that I have installed before I run this command. So you can see the version of NVM, the version of Node, NPM, and the version of Yarn. So let's go ahead and run the command npx create-react-app space YouTube-app, and then press the enter key. It will take a little time to do this, so we'll come right back. So there's a few other messages that you'll see. And once it's finished, you'll see these other messages here on the screen. npm start to start up your development server, npm run build to make it into a static set of files that you can deploy to a website. So now I'll use my VS Code editor to open up the code that was just created for us. First, I'll change or cd into the directory, which is called YouTube-app. And then I'll type the word code and a period and then press enter. And it will start up my VS Code editor. I always click on yes in this case because I'm the one that just created the files and I trust them. So on my Windows 10 machine here, I've opened up a command prompt that you can see here in the bottom of the window, and it's in the directory that we need to be in so we can run our npm commands. Also, there's a git ignore file, which I will set up the git commands for an initial configuration. Our package.json file, which has some dependency information listed, as well as these scripts. Those are the scripts that will run down here on the command line. There's a README file, which you can delete or change how you like. It does say getting started with the Create React app, and that this project was bootstrapped with the Create React app like we just saw. The other folders, the node modules, that was installed during the long installation process after running the command. That pulled in a lot of open source packages that will be used or could be used in the application depending on how you write your code. There's also a public folder. We can see here there's the index.html page, and that has some default information in here, such as your React application title that will show up in the browsers tab. So we could call this YouTube app, and then save it, Control S for Windows. And the src or source code folder has our initial CSS file, our initial JavaScript file, which has the main application code that you can see here. It has a link to our CSS file here, and it also pulls in or imports our logo from a file called logo.svg. And there's a hyperlink here for the React.js website. The index.css is like a global style sheet. There's a few things defined there. And the index.js is what basically links in our main application, which is here on line 10, the app component. So now let's go ahead and start up this application and see what it looks like. So if we type npm start and then hit the enter key, it will take a short amount of time, but it will go ahead and open up a web browser, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. You may see a message like this if you have multiple programs running, as I do. I have a lot of VS Code windows running in the background now. So in this case, I just say yes. And it will go ahead and use a different port, which I'll show in the web browser. The next message you should see will be starting the development server, and that may take a moment depending on the speed of your computer. So here in the window, you can see localhost colon 3001. So that's the port that it used this time to open up and run our basic React application. And so there's the logo that I showed in the code. Here's the message that was output in the app component, and then the hyperlink to the React website. So let's go ahead and close this and go back to the code, and notice the message down here. It just gives you a little bit of information where you can access the running application. I'm going to go ahead and press Control C and terminate the batch job, so now it's not running anymore on the computer system. Another thing I wanted to point out, if you've never done this npm run eject, I would encourage you to give it a try sometime. It does mention here it's a one-way operation and you can't go back with this particular React application. And it just goes on to explain here, if you're not satisfied with the build tool and configuration choices, you can eject it at any time. And basically it copies all the configuration files and transitive dependencies, Webpack, Babel, ESLint, right into your project, so you'll have full control over them. It does add a whole lot of more, I would say, complexity and files and configuration that you can take over control of. So you should give that a try sometime. And in the rest of the README file, I think it's great they list some links to like more CRA or create React app documentation, code splitting, analyzing the bundle size, which I actually talk about something similar to that in one of my other videos, and several other important pieces of documentation here. So next I'll run the npm run build command. As it says here on the screen, the version that we just ran was not optimized for production, so now we will build a production version and walk through the basic steps of how I use an FTP program to send it out to a static web hosting provider on the internet. So here we go, npm run build, and hit the enter key. And again, this will take a little bit of time depending on the speed of your computer. So the build is finished, and you see some basic information here on the screen about the files that were built. And if you want to like run it with a server here, you can do npm install -g space serve, and then do serve /s and then build, and it will run it with a static server here right in your development environment. But what I've done is I went ahead and opened up an FTP program, and off screen I created an account, an FTP account on an actual server, a domain name that I'll show here in just a minute. So here is the same folder with the files that we were building in the VS Code. So I wanted to point out the directory that we're in, ctemp/code/youtube-app. And let's remember the name of the application or the title of the page, which if we scroll down here, we'll see it's called YouTube app. So let's go ahead and open up the FTP program and show how I transfer files up to a web hosting company. So here you can see we're in the same directory that I just showed in VS Code, and so all of our files are here that it built for us, the index page, the logos. If we go into the static folder, we can see all of these files here, the JS files, the CSS files, and any media files, our basic logo. So that's what we're going to upload. Now I already uploaded it once, so I'll go ahead and delete these files. It'll just take a second. So there, we will go ahead and upload them now. So I select all the files and then hit the right arrow, and it will proceed to upload all the files to the FTP host, which is also connected to a domain name, and I'll show that in the web browser here in just a moment as soon as these files are. So then here is what the application looked like on our local machine, and we can see here it's now running. It's called YouTube app, and it's on a domain name called scottsYouTubeVideos.com. So that's basically it in a nutshell of how you create a new React application, make some basic changes, and upload it to a web hosting company that deals with static websites such as this React static website. If you like this channel, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content.